Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let me make sure we have all of our stuff together here looking good. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Herbert Harris, and this is our Success Thought number 97. And today we're going to talk about handling disappointment. Of course, you know our book, The 12 Universal Laws of Success. Our messages are based on our book. And the 12 Universal Laws of Success is available on Amazon. It's available through our website, herbertharris.com, and pretty much anywhere you have a digital website. All right. I love investing. Thank you so much for joining us. Sadatavia, thank you for joining us from India. Today's topic, handling disappointment, it's really a growth process. So many times we set out to do things, and as we begin to close out this year, if we focus on some of our disappointments, it can undermine our efforts to close out strong. And so let's look at some of the disappointments. And disappointment generally is when you don't feel that you have lived up to the expectations. Let's look at three types of disappointment. There's disappointment in yourself, where you know that you could have done better. Dr. Mansa Musa, thank you for joining us today. Disappointment in yourself where you know you could have done better. You could have been better prepared. You could have gotten there early. You could have studied. You could have gotten a team in place. Disappointment in yourself is very, very challenging because it does something to you. When you fail to live up to your own expectations, you have only yourself to blame. And that's where the problem comes. When we talk about disappointment in ourselves, we can't keep blaming ourselves for the things we did not do, the things we didn't accomplish. We can't keep blaming ourselves with the thought that, oh, I could have done better, woulda, shoulda, coulda. We're going to talk about how to overcome that. Let's look at the next type of disappointment is disappointment from others and disappointment in others. We may be in relationships with other people. It may be a business relationship. It may be a personal relationship. It may be a family relationship. But when we are disappointed in other people, it impacts us. When other people have not lived up to our expectations. Sometimes we get mad with the other person. Sometimes we get mad with ourselves for saying, hey, I should have seen that coming. And then you have disappointment in the world. When we look around at some of the negative things going on in the world today, no, there are no negative things. There are lots of things that could be better. Let's put it like that. There are lots of things in this world that could really be better for all concerned. So let's look at these three types of disappointment. Disappointment in yourself, disappointment in others. And there's another little caveat here. Disappointment in other people's expectations of you. You've heard the phrase, I don't want to disappoint my mom. I don't want to disappoint my spouse. I don't want to disappoint my friends. So that's, once again, a sense inside you that you have not lived up to somebody else's expectations. I was watching a commercial, and I tell you, I'm a dog lover, but I don't think, that one commercial says, I promised my dog, whatever his name is, I'm going to only get him a certain kind of dog food. I'm like, man, I don't know how, I don't know about promising your dog. What are your dog's expectations? Your dog wants to eat, okay? But it's interesting, to promise somebody means that you commit yourself to deliver on a certain level. So let's look at how do we handle disappointment? How do we take ourselves and put ourselves in a position where the disappointment doesn't undermine us. So number one, never be overwhelmed by disappointment. When it's in yourself, don't beat yourself up. You know, anytime you fail to live up to your own expectations, forgive yourself. Instead of being hard on yourself, look at a disappointment in yourself as a growth opportunity. When things don't work out the way you wanted them to, and you say, hey, you know, I could have done better, then look at it and say, this was an opportunity for me to grow. This situation in which I did not live up to my own expectations, the purpose is for me to grow through it. Those of you who are listening and watching today, I know that there are times when you really feel that you did not do your best. It's not that it's okay, but don't let it overwhelm you. To look at it from the sense of, okay, what was the lesson I'm supposed to learn from this? Take time and respond. So when you're disappointed in yourself, you know, just give yourself a little breather. It's like before you start beating this, say, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn from this situation? When it's disappointment in other people, to realize that you can't live by other people's expectations of you, and you can't live by your expectations of other people. Say that again. You can't live, you can't let your life be profoundly impacted by your expectations of other people, nor by other people's expectations of you. You know, relationships are really challenging because so many times in a relationship, we're trying to figure out what the other person's expectation of us is so that we can act accordingly. Hopefully, they're thinking the same thing about you. But we must realize that we cannot live our lives based on other people's expectations. Their expectations is based on their consciousness and their perception of you. So, you know, there are people you can't satisfy. I mean, you can go through life trying to please people who can't be pleased. And it's not that you're not good enough. It's just that their expectations are out of whack. Maybe they can't see you as doing a good job because they themselves don't feel that they're capable of doing a comparable job. And as a result, they don't want to give you that kind of acknowledgement. Don't be overwhelmed by your own expectations of other people. Other people have their own vibration. They have their own perception. And so when you have expectations of other people, that is you based on your perception of what they're capable of. So often we are surprised when people do things to us. We go like, wow, I didn't think they would do that to me. But if we were a little more observant and we listen to that inner voice, you know, we have this internal radar that tells us what's true and what's not true. And many times when we find that we're disappointed, it's because we overruled that vibration inside that said, don't believe this. Don't bet the barn on this deal. Recognize that everything has a season. Sometimes things don't work out and it has nothing to do with you. If you're trying to plant in the dead of winter, believe me, you're not going to be a good farmer. If you're trying to raise your children among chaos and confusion, chances are there are going to be some issues. And so recognize that everything has a season. So sometimes your results that you get are not dependent so much on your efforts or the other person's efforts. It just was not the season for that to happen. Take small steps. When you've been disappointed time and time again, don't expect the world to turn around overnight, but start taking small steps. When you're disappointed in yourself, you say, you know what? I was late to my appointment. I didn't get the job because I showed up late for the interview. You think they're going to give you the job? I don't think so. So you look at that and say, okay, what's the lesson to learn from this? What I got to do is this. Let me at least start getting up at the same time every morning. Let me practice by laying out my clothes the night before. So now when the next job interview comes up, I'll be ready. These small steps to rectify the source of your disappointment are profound because it helps you move on to another level of your own performance. With other people, disappointment in other people. Take small steps. Don't just open the door to a person's vibrations until you are sure who they really are. Sometimes a person doesn't know who they are, so they're doing the best they can with what they have to do it with. Trust your inner intuition. And that intuition says, stop, stop. And then finally, treat every disappointment as a learning experience. A disappointment in yourself, get better. A disappointment in other people, be more aware, more attentive to who they really are and what they're capable of. Disappointment in the world, to recognize that the world has its own vibration created by the collective consciousness of all the people therein. You can choose to not be a part of that. So, to wrap up today, disappointment can be a great lesson for growth. Disappointment can be a great lesson to help you be more, do more, and have more. You see, when you never let disappointment overwhelm you, then there's no challenge that you cannot meet. It may mean you just have to work harder at it. There's no obstacle you cannot overcome. Maybe you need, instead of going over the mountain, you need to go around the mountain. Maybe that's the journey. There's no dream that you cannot realize. Always knowing that you have the capacity to be what you want to be, to do what you want to do, and to have whatever you want to have, but always knowing that the best is yet to come. Just let that sink in. Dr. Mansa Musa says the longest journey begins with a single step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So take small steps to be better, to do better, and to realize your dreams. Dr. Herbert Harris saying tomorrow morning, every morning from Monday through Saturday at 8 a.m., we're here to share. And I thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow is another day for growth, for living, for sharing, and being alive. And I'll see you there, 8 a.m.